Welcome to the Bourbon Doctors. Today we're talking about rum? Today, Derek, Taylor, Albert, what are we talking about today? Taylor, this is you, man. You brought this into my life, and it's not bourbon.
This isn't bourbon, but it's as close as you'll get to bourbon if you're drinking rum. This is FourSquare rum, part of the Exceptional Cask series. This one is recently hit the shelves. It's called Sovereignty. This is a 14-year blend of column and pot stilled rum from a single distillery that is then finished in sherry casks, or it's a blend of sherry casks and bourbon casks, it says.
And I think most of you are saying the same thing that I'm thinking right now, which is, I like bourbon. I don't like to drink Captain Morgan.
And you shouldn't.
Why are you bringing me this rum?
Drink Captain Morgan. You should not do that, or you should with Coke. But this is a bourbon drinker's rum. I mean, this is a whiskey drinker's rum, something that will branch you out a little bit. It's going to have a lot of the same vibes that you're used to. This is non-chill filtered, no color added, just like you would expect from your bourbon. And the product speaks for itself.
So now this is out of Barbados. I saw on the bottle. It's 120 proof, so we're not messing around.
Yeah, and I want to say it's cask strength. I don't know that to be true. 124 proof.
But non-chilled filtered
and certainly such a different nose compared to bourbon.
Especially once that alcohol sort of
wafts away. Yeah. But it's got this
different fruits though than
no, for sure. There's just a touch of alcohol, but it's not bad. Although
some passion fruits and citrus
I
fruit,
hate to say this,
coconuts.
I get a little paint thinner.
Paint
thinner? What I get.
Huh?
Just a little. Just a little. Paint thinner.
It can have some astringency to it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Fine. Yeah. I will tell you that the palate is not anything but astringent, and those tasting notes you were just talking about, where you get those tropical fruits. I get a coconut, which is a super fun thing. I don't think you ever get.
No, you're never getting that on a bourbon.
Bourbon.
Yeah.
And the palate is it's very nice. It is not your Captain Morgan. It's not your Bacardi. Don't mix this with Coke. This is fine sipping spirits right here.
They have fun with these Exceptional Cask series, so they have a vintage release every year, which is always a 12-year, always only ex-bourbon, and it'll say the date that it was the vintage of on the bottle, 2007, 2008, 2009. And they go back to, I think, 04, maybe earlier, I don't know. But then they have these that are finished, or a mixture of unique barrels, in this case sherry. I think they had one that was, the premise was also sherry, but that was like 46 proof, or 46%. And then they've had them in port, in Madeira. I don't know what other ones, but
yeah. And Chad, pour a little out for Chad. Not here tonight, but neither of us are big on the finishes. For bourbons, I don't know enough about rum to say whether I'm a finished rum guy or not. That being said, full disclosure, I had a sip of one of these products at Taylor's house the other night, which is how this episode started. I like that better. And I don't know what that was, but this is good. That was better.
This has got a little bit more oak to it, and I only actually get the sherry on the finish. So, like, to me, it's the flavor that comes back after you've had the sip. It's sitting there on the back palate, and I'm like, oh, what is that? That's sherry.
The sherry.
There's oak and spice. There's so many flavors that you find in a bourbon in here, but then there's this other layer of flavors you don't find in bourbon.
No, and
you don't find the tropical fruits. No. At least I don't. And it also just has a feel of a different spirit to it.
Absolutely. And I think people talk about like what's the summertime sipper? Boy, I tell you what, I almost might trade in my summertime bourbon and drink some summertime rum, because this has a very tropical feel to it. There's this passion fruit, mango, coconut, pineapple, something. Pineapple's probably where I would go, actually.
What there are other FourSquare products that exist out there that are maybe not as proofy, maybe not as old, maybe not as finished. What are some of those other options that exist?
There's certainly more than I know about, but I think it's Real McCoy is one, and that's usually a 12-year. And then there's the RL Seals, which is more of their entry level product. Yeah. But that's still a 10-year or 12-year. I think it's 10-year.
They source
a well priced. That's just as good.
I guess we should comment on that. What is our price point for something like this?
These are not all priced the same, but because this one's 14 years and high proof, it's one of the more expensive ones. This is right around 130.
Okay.
20 to 140, depending on.
So I mean that's a
MSRP. Yeah. But you can get into their vintage, their 2008 or 2009 for more like 80 to 90.
Okay, so we're still talking a higher price point than like some Jim Beam white label for sure.
Right.
But if we talk about barrel proof bourbons, your Larcenys, your ECVPs, your makers, you're definitely in the $60 to $80 range for most of those. So I think we're ballparking.
What 14-year cask strength bourbon is going to be less than that?
Not many. Not many. If you're getting a 12-year,
there are those Calumet Farms that people are raving about, and those are 15 years, and those are same price.
130.
You can get older MGP sourced bourbon that's going to end up being in the same price point, somewhere between 100 to 150. So it's not a stretch to think that this would cost more given its age statement.
Yep.
But there are more approachable sourced FourSquare products that exist out there at lower proofs that may be fun to start with.
Yeah. Or you could spend $100 on Booker's, and that's 6 years old.
Yeah.
That's your jam.
I mean, that is some people's jam. I don't mind a Booker's. Yeah. But
neither do I like Booker's.
But it is gotten too expensive. How long have you been drinking this rum? Not this one, baby. Not this one in particular.
I don't know. It's been a couple years.
Okay, so I guess where I was going with that is Booker's just a few years ago. I mean, maybe 3 was $60, and now it's $90.
Yeah.
Have you seen those prices go up with?
No, some of their more recent ones have been higher age, so they've been more expensive. But rum is a little bit more protected than bourbon. Bourbon's been craze. Rum may be the next craze. I don't know.
Yeah,
people are starting to go crazy about FourSquare and some other rums. But
and I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about there are some higher end FourSquares. We should not.
They're higher end than this.
They're higher end than this. And,
all right.
And a lot of these are again the bourbon the rum craze has not hit the United States yet, but there are some European only releases. I think other markets that get a more varied rum experience than we do here in the United States. But we are starting to see, I feel like I'm starting to see more and more of these show up on shelves, and I think they're, again, you want to get ahead of the next craze, maybe
this might be it.
This might be it.
Yeah. I've been hearing that for a few years, that rum is what's coming next.
They are a little bit collectors-y because there will never be another sovereignty, right? And once they're sold, once they're gone, and the secondary price of that reflects that. So if you look up one of the older ones, you'll be able to get it, a Sagacity or a Premise or something, but they're...
And I heard Sodomy's the next one. Is that what I heard?
You should send a message to Mr. Seal and see if that's the right one to do.
Yeah, Isonomy is the next one, I believe.
Isonomy.
Same.
So
what else you got?
We brought the 09, which is just now. This is their standard spirit. It's a 12-year ex-bourbon. So
I like that we're going. Their standard product is a 12-year, whereas in bourbon it's like, it's a 12-year.
Standard FourSquare exceptional cask selection that is released once a year and vintage labeled is only bourbon.
But to 2009, still available somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Oh definitely.
I mean,
saw it the other day.
Yep.
You say one.
Good.
And you may still find an 08 or an 07, and they are a little bit different. That's good.
All right, so a little FourSquare 2009
So what a difference 2 years makes.
ex-bourbon cask.
Especially on the nose. This is much more.
But now this one was sherry finished, right?
Yep.
It doesn't actually say that anywhere on this thing.
Yeah, it says right there.
It doesn't actually say that.
Oh, an
sherry finished.
ex-bourbon and ex-sherry.
It says it's
Got
a combination of
yeah,
casks.
yeah.
So, yeah. So.
This is a bourbon nose, if I've ever had one. I mean,
Oh, really? I see. I still get very tropical. This is put me in Barbados, Aruba, wherever the Caribbean may be. But
vanilla, oak. It's
but there's this undercurrent of something tropical in there, right? Even on the nose.
We should say this is a Barbados rum. That there are Jamaican rums which are different.
I mean, every place in the
Rums.
Caribbean has a little something, right?
Yeah,
But I mean,
and I'm not a rum guy enough to know enough about the difference.
okay. So, but FourSquare solely out of Barbados?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So we have Barbados.
That is, yeah. It now whether this is because this bottle's a little opened, it's had some time to breathe, yada yada yada, or if it's just. But this is a little less astringent than the bottle we just opened.
Yeah, I've always liked these better because I'm not a huge finished cask compared to just let's do ex-bourbon, let's just see how it did over 12 years.
no.
I think it's awesome. I'd rather, and then the price point on this just makes this. I don't think the jump from 90 to 130 gives you that much more, but
No.
I would agree with that.
Now I'll say, as the non-rum drinking, these guys, right, spirits all around, they drink all their shit. I just drink the bourbon, but this. You mentioned the nose, but I'll say the palate. This is a bourbon with a little twist. This hits me with like vanilla and caramel up front, but then there's this undercurrent's the best way I can put it, of just like something tropical.
I
Is
would
that a
say
little
that
pineapple you're tasting? Maybe, I don't know.
I would go on a limb for a lot of people. I think they're more likely to like something like this versus wanting to branch out into Scotch, for example, because Scotch this has a lot more bourbon character to it.
Yep.
And then it's some additional flavors, just like you said. Whereas Scotch is very. I love Scotch, but if you didn't know that much about Scotch and you went to branch out into Scotch and were to happen to try something like Lafroig or phenomenal, but it's going to be totally different.
Nope.
We got to do Scotch sometime though. 'Cause Scotch.
All right. So upcoming episode, we're gonna do, I think, a theme of like drinks for non-bourbon spirits for non-bourbon spirits for bourbon drinkers.
Not talking about bourbon.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is, I mean, I'll have to say, all you bourbon drinkers out there, go and get this. This 2009 FourSquare is fantastic. It reminds me of a bourbon, but our here's my ridiculous tasting note of the episode. When I was younger, Starburst, and I think they still do, there was the regular, and then there was the tropical.
Yep.
It's the same fucking candy, right? It's
Yep.
a different color, but then there's this just twist of like, we're gonna throw some tropical flavors. That's what I feel like I'm drinking. It's bourbon with like a tropical Starburst that they threw inside for a little bit.
Yeah, if you find yourself that bourbon's become a little mundane, maybe this Booker's is the same kind of thing as the last Booker's.
well,
and
to be
the
determined.
Elijah Craig 12 year is pretty much the same as the last one, and Buffalo Trace is not that different the third time, fourth time, 100th time you've had it. Branch out into something like this because it'll take you on a trip.
Pleasantly surprised, and I mean, again, you're broadening your horizon. You're not siloing yourself into the same old stuff time and time again. You're mixing it up. You're giving your palate something a little bit different, and I think that's important when you're developing, tasting. If you want to be somebody who can step up, taste something, and be able to pull out some of those things, this is a nice way to vary what you're drinking.
I like that. I like it a lot, and I will say, like, this just adds a little something that you're right. Bourbon. How many times can we argue? Oh, the new Booker's release, the new Buffalo Trace release, the new. dude, this is where it's at. Like, mix it up a little.
Agreed.
If you want to mix it up, don't go from bourbon to bourbon. This is the first beer that I've tried that I'm like, this is something, as a bourbon guy, as a bourbon lover, this is something that I could get behind. Lots of people talk Irish whiskey, Tennessee whiskey. Tennessee whiskey, it's bourbon. It's just not labeled. It's just labeled differently, right?
Yeah.
Irish whiskey, I'm sorry, there's just something like none of it comes very proofy. It leaves something for me. There's something left on the table. I'm missing something.
Now,
Cask strength here.
yeah. One thing I will say, if you're gonna branch out into that Irish, if you find yourself spending $500 on a 27-year redbreast, you will actually get some of the same notes at this. But believe me, spend the money on this as opposed to that, and you're going to get the same effect.
If you're thinking about buying 27-year-old
Yeah.
redbreast, you should. Don't listen to him. If you've got $500 to drop on that, do it.
Yeah, but if you want the same effect at a more approachable price point, this will hit all those exact same notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is a better value probably than these that get more expensive. If it has a year on it, it's going to be awesome. And then if it has one of these weird names that you can't pronounce, check and see.
I can pronounce
finishing
sodomy.
it is.
What's the problem there? All right. Bourbon. Look, we're the Bourbon Doctors. Like, comment, subscribe. I know this is not about bourbon, but I'm telling you, FourSquare Bourbon, check it out. You won't be disappointed.
You won't find FourSquare bourbon.
You might find FourSquare rum.
Or FourSquare rum.
Try that.
Yeah. Fuck you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Bourbon is for drinking. Cheers.